We're told that when we die, we simply vanish, leaving behind nothing but memories. But what if that's not true? What if those who pass on are still here, still watching, and even trying to reach us? I've seen it. I've seen the universes they enter, the lessons they learn, and the terrifying truth about what they want us to know. It's nothing like we've been told. This is the story no one expects, and it changed everything I thought I knew about life and death. Hi, I'm Cecilia Matthews, and this is my story. The moment I died. It happened so suddenly. One minute, I was standing in the emergency room doing my job as a nurse, and the next, everything went dark. I collapsed without warning. The last thing I remember was hearing someone calling my name, Emma, a colleague, I think, before I lost consciousness. I wasn't aware of the chaos in the room at first. Everything seemed to go still. It was as if I was floating above it all, looking down at my own body. I could see my colleagues working frantically to revive me, but I didn't feel part of it anymore. I was detached, separate, watching from a distance. I heard the beeping monitors and felt the cold air, but it all started to fade away. Then I saw it, a light. A tunnel. Not bright or blinding, but it felt warm like it was calling me home. It wasn't like I imagined death would be. No angels, no grand visions. Just light. The transition was surprisingly gentle. There was no panic, no fear. It was like stepping into something familiar. I felt lighter, free of all the burdens and worries that had weighed me down in life. All of my stress, my doubts, the things that had kept me up at night, they didn't matter anymore. It was just pure peace. I didn't feel like I was moving in a traditional way. I was floating, drifting. And the more I moved away from my body, the clearer things became. I looked down at my lifeless body on the bed and felt nothing. No grief. No fear. It was as if I had outgrown it. My body was just a shell, and I was not attached to it anymore. There was nothing to hold on to. I was moving on. I could still hear the voices in the room, my colleagues calling out, but I wasn't really listening anymore. I was not part of that world anymore. There was something so calming about it. The light ahead called me, and I knew I had to follow it. It was hard to explain, but the sensation was unmistakable. I was not scared or worried about the world I was leaving behind. I wasn't concerned about what I hadn't done or who I might be leaving behind. All those earthly concerns just vanished. The only thing that remained was this peaceful understanding. I was meant to be here. This was what came next. As I drifted closer to the light, I felt an overwhelming sense of calm. I was safe. And I was loved. I was not sure where this feeling was coming from, but it was as if someone was telling me that everything was going to be okay. I was okay. I didn't need to do anything more. I had nothing left to prove. At that moment, the fears I had carried throughout my life seemed utterly irrelevant. There was no guilt, no regret. Just peace. And love. The kind of love I had never experienced before. It was deeper, more universal. It was everywhere, surrounding me, holding me. It felt like I was being welcomed into something vast, something beautiful. The experience was more than as dramatic or terrifying as I'd expected. Instead of chaos or darkness, I was greeted by warmth and clarity. It seemed like I was about to enter something much bigger. I was not just going away. I was becoming part of something. I looked back at my body, at the doctors and nurses trying to save me, and I felt no urgency. I wasn't rushing to return to them. I wasn't scared of death. The pull of the light, the sense of comfort, was so powerful that I just wanted to surrender to it. The world I had known seemed so distant, so unimportant now. It didn't mean that I didn't care about the people I loved, but in that moment, everything felt perfect. Everything felt right. I was exactly where I was supposed to be. There was no reason to be afraid. No reason to resist. I didn't want to leave, but the pull forward was strong. The light was calling me. And in that moment, I knew that I was about to cross into something else, something beyond this life, beyond all of the things I had ever worried about. It was a peaceful acceptance. I knew that this was just the next step, and there was nothing to fear about it. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to control everything. I didn't have to hold on. I could just let go. And in that surrender, I found peace. True, overwhelming peace. There was no more fear, no more doubt. Only love. Only calm. And in that moment, I knew that everything was going to be okay. Meeting the guide. As I was pulled closer to the light, everything around me began to shift. It was like stepping into a new world, one that felt both unfamiliar and strangely peaceful. And then, from the light, a figure appeared. It was not like a person but more of a being made entirely of radiant light. The warmth from this being felt comforting, like being wrapped in a blanket of safety. The presence was calming, and though it didn't speak in words, I could sense its communication directly with my soul. "You are safe," the teacher conveyed. "You are home." At first, I didn't know what that meant, but as the teacher guided me, the world around me unfolded into a vast zone, a zone that didn't feel bound by time or space. It was layered, like the petals of a cosmic flower. Each layer represented a different stage of a soul's journey, and it was breathtaking. We first entered a peaceful garden, where souls glowed softly, walking slowly or resting under trees. The air was filled with calm, and I could feel how at peace the souls were. They weren't rushing or struggling, just existing in harmony. The teacher explained, "These souls reflect on kindness, on love. This is where they rest, heal, and grow." It was clear to me now, this realm was not a place of judgment. It wasn't about punishment. It was a space where souls came to reflect, not with guilt, but with understanding. They weren't condemned for their choices, but given the space to learn from them, to grow through them. As we moved deeper into the realm, I saw great halls filled with souls watching something, like a life review. But it wasn't about punishment, it was about learning. They were seeing their lives unfold in front of them, not just the big moments but all the choices they made, even the small ones. The teacher explained, this is where understanding grows. Souls see their actions and their effects, and they learn. I realized that this place wasn't about judging the soul for mistakes. It was about growth. There was no shame here, only understanding. Souls were learning from their past, from the ripples their actions had caused. It was not a place of judgment or torment, but a place of learning, healing, and becoming better. I had always thought of life after death in terms of heaven and hell, of reward and punishment. But here, in this realm, those ideas seemed irrelevant. It wasn't about right and wrong, it was about learning, evolving, and becoming who we were meant to be. The deeper I went, the more I understood. This was not just a resting place. It was a place of transformation. Souls weren't stuck in their past mistakes. They were healing, growing, and becoming. I began to see the purpose of this place. It was a journey, not a destination. A journey to heal, reflect, and evolve. For the first time, I felt true peace. This was my home, and I knew the journey had just begun. What we miss about life. As the teacher continued to guide me through this vast realm, we moved from the peaceful gardens into what felt like a large, open hall. I could see souls sitting, watching their lives unfold before them, like they were watching a film. These weren't just the good parts of their lives, but everything, the mistakes, the choices, the moments of joy, and the moments of sorrow. I could sense no judgment, only a deep, quiet understanding. The teacher explained that this was a place for life reviews. But what struck me was how different it was from what I'd always been told about judgment after death. There was no grand judgment here, no scales of good and bad. Souls weren't being punished, they were learning. They were seeing the effects of their choices, the good, the bad, the things they wished they could change. And they weren't doing it with shame or guilt. Instead, they were watching with a kind of gentle understanding. I thought about my own life. If I were sitting there, watching everything I had ever done, would I be able to look at it the way these souls did? With no judgment, only understanding? I was not sure. But in that space, it felt like a deep truth that no soul is perfect, and that was okay. We all make choices, but we all have the chance to learn from them. Then, as we moved forward, I saw something that made my heart ache. There were other souls in a different space, not in the halls of reflection, but in a place of healing. These souls seemed dimmer, not glowing with the same light as those in the gardens or the life review chambers. I could sense their pain. Some of them were clutching what looked like shadows, dark, heavy burdens of anger, sorrow, and regret. The teacher explained that these souls were carrying trauma, pain from their past lives, from the choices they had made, or from the things that had been done to them. They weren't being judged, though. In this realm, no one was judged. Instead, there were beings of light who were gently working with these souls, offering them love, comfort, and healing. At first, I felt a deep sadness for them. I could see how much they were struggling, trapped in their own pain. Some of them seemed to resist the healing, holding on to their anger or hurt like it was the only thing they knew. They didn't want to let go, and that hurt me to see. But the teacher reassured me that no soul is ever abandoned, even when they resist healing. Love will always wait for them, the teacher said. No soul is lost forever. This brought me some comfort, but a part of me couldn't help but feel unsettled. I had always believed that when someone died, they were either in peace or in some form of punishment. But what I saw in these chambers wasn't a punishment at all. It was the heartbreaking truth that some souls are so tangled in their pain and trauma that they can't let go, even in the afterlife. They hold on to it so tightly that they can't move forward. And yet, they're never abandoned. Love is there, waiting for them, but they have to choose to heal. The idea that some souls could be trapped in their pain for so long was terrifying. I realized that, in a way, death isn't an automatic escape from suffering. There's no magic switch that turns off all the pain. But the overwhelming truth was this: no matter how much pain a soul carries, love is always there. Love is the constant. It's just that some souls are still lost in their trauma, not yet ready to embrace it. I couldn't stop thinking about that truth. There was this deep sense of peace in knowing that love waits for all of us. But there was also a sadness in realizing how many souls might resist that love, clinging to their hurt for reasons I could never fully understand. It was a difficult truth, one that shook me to my core, but it was also a truth that gave me hope. It reminded me that even the darkest, most painful experiences could eventually be healed by love. As we moved away from the healing chambers, the teacher showed me another layer of this vast realm, a space where souls could choose to serve, helping others still on their journey. But the image of those souls who resisted healing stayed with me. I couldn't shake the thought of them, trapped in their pain but never abandoned, always surrounded by the possibility of healing if they could only accept it. I wondered how many of us, while living, were carrying our own shadows, our own unresolved pain. I thought of the people I knew, my friends, my family, and even strangers. How many of us were holding on to things we didn't need, things that were keeping us stuck? I wondered if we all have a choice, even now, to let go of the darkness, to embrace love and healing while we're still alive. The souls that stay behind. As the teacher continued guiding me through the vast, luminous realm, something incredible happened. I felt a familiar presence, a warmth that seemed to wrap around me like a blanket. And then, in front of me, stood my grandmother, radiant, glowing with a light that seemed to come from within. It was her, but she wasn't the frail, aging woman I remembered. She was full of energy, of love, of peace. I felt a rush of emotion. It was as if I had been waiting my whole life to see her again. In life, she had always been my protector, my safe space, the one who gave me wisdom in the quietest ways. Now, here she was, still watching over me, still guiding me, but in a form I hadn't been able to comprehend until now. My grandmother smiled at me, and it was not just a smile, it was an expression of pure, unconditional love. She didn't speak right away, but I could feel her presence deeply, as though she was trying to send a message through her very being. The teacher noticed my amazement and explained, "Souls like your grandmother, those who have passed, often serve as guides. They watch over those they love, helping them find their way, offering comfort when needed, nudging them toward healing." I nodded, overwhelmed with the beauty of it all. My grandmother wasn't gone. She was still here, still a part of my life, just in a different way. The teacher went on to explain that all souls, living or departed, are interconnected. Every action we take, every word we speak, ripples out across the universe, touching the lives of others in ways we may never see. It was like an invisible web that tied everyone together, stretching across time and space, from past to present, from one person to another. I thought about the people in my life, the ones I loved, the ones I had hurt, and the ones who had hurt me. I had always thought of these connections as temporary, as fleeting. But now, in this realm, I could see the truth. Our connections were eternal. They were not bound by the limits of time or the physical world. Each person, each soul, was linked to another in a web of love, compassion, and shared experiences. The more the teacher spoke, the more I began to understand that death was not an end. It wasn't a final curtain falling, but a continuation of something far greater. It was a step in an eternal cycle of growth, healing, and transformation. I could sense it now, the idea that life, death, and everything in between are part of one great, never-ending journey. We are not separate from one another. We are all connected, and even death can't break those bonds. Looking at my grandmother, I realized that she had always been there for me. Even when I didn't know it, even when I thought I was alone, she had been watching over me. And now, I understood that she wasn't the only one. All around me were souls, loving and guiding, offering support in ways that I could not yet see. This revelation filled me with a profound sense of peace. Death, I realized, was not to be feared. It was not a final goodbye, but a transition into something greater, something more connected. The threads of love and guidance stretch across the veil, connecting all souls, past, present, and future, together in a web of shared experience. And through it all, we are never alone. The real secret to existence. As I stood there, my mind still absorbing the incredible sights and lessons the teacher had shown me, something shifted within me. The weight of everything I had witnessed, every soul, every choice, every moment, seemed to come to a single point of clarity. The teacher turned to me, his expression filled with knowing, as if he had been waiting for this moment all along. Love, he said softly, is the essence of everything. It is not just an emotion, it is the force that binds all existence together. It transcends life and death. It is the fabric of the universe. At first it felt too simple. Love is the thing we all know, the thing we all seek, yet often fail to truly understand. But as the teacher's words sank in, I realized that love wasn't just something we felt in our hearts. It was not just a fleeting emotion or something confined to our relationships. Love was the very core of all that is. It was the invisible thread that connected every soul, every moment, every heartbeat. The teacher showed me something I hadn't expected, the ripples of love. I saw how even the smallest act of kindness could echo through time and space, touching lives in ways that I couldn't begin to understand. A smile to a stranger, a hand held in times of grief, a word of encouragement when someone was at their lowest. These acts, no matter how insignificant they seemed, created ripples. They changed the world, even if we never saw how. But then came the terrifying truth, the part that shook me to my core. Life and death, I now understood, were two sides of the same coin. We come into this world, live, and then transition out of it. But it's the choices we make, whether we embrace love or turn away from it, that shape not only our journey, but the world around us. Every decision, every action, ripples out, affecting everything and everyone. This was the most profound and frightening realization of all. We have the power to choose love, to heal, to transform the world, or to live in fear, anger, and disconnection. It felt both empowering and terrifying, because our choices truly matter. Every moment is precious, and what we decide in those moments shapes our future and the future of others. But in the midst of this vast, interconnected web of existence, there was hope. The teacher reassured me that no one is ever truly lost. Even when souls stray, even when they resist healing or love, they are always surrounded by light, always given the chance to choose again. Love, at its core, is always within reach. When I returned to my body, I carried this truth with me. Love is the key to everything. It is the force that heals, connects, and transcends. Every small act of love, every kind word, every compassionate gesture, it all matters. My role now, as I return to the world of the living, was clear: to spread this message, to remind others that love is the answer. No matter how difficult life may seem, no matter how lost we feel at times, love is the force that will always bring us home. This is the truth I carry with me now, that love is the answer. It always has been, and it always will be.
What if the key to everything, life, death, and everything in between was simply love? What if our every action, no matter how small, ripples through eternity? Take a moment to reflect on that. What's one small act of kindness you can do today that might change the world around you? Share your thoughts with us below. Like, comment, and subscribe for more such stories.